Leroy.
Ooh.
Thanks for being here, Leroy. Leroy's thinking big. If we ever hit the over in terms of win total, do you think we will have the number one class in 2025?
I don't think it's a direct correlation. And so the over being our win total is 9.5. We win 10 or 11 regular season games because it's a regular season number, right? Or 12, God willing, like undefeated. I will accept that with a gracious heart. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's a direct correlation to that win total and that final class ranking, right? And you can see that because like 7-win season, this class ends up third or fourth, depending on, I don't know, it's like fractional. It's like, at this point, it's a decimal. But, and the year before that was a top 5 or, which at the end, because of transfers, I think slipped to 7 or something on a 5-7 season. So I think it opens the door for the possibility in a stronger way. And if you look at the recruiting battles that Miami lost last year, right? Think of, I'm just going to go at the top of the list. Jeremiah Smith, number 1 player in America, right? Obviously that would have, David Stone, 5-star defensive lineman, whose whole family dressed like your boy, had the Hurricanes hats and everything. And he commits to Oklahoma, and his whole squad is like, we're going to... David, what did you just say? Right? Think about that. You lose that battle. A Dylan Stewart, 5-star defensive end that Miami was engaged in that recruitment for a good long time in. There's maybe a couple others, right? But if you win... instead of being a 7-win team, we'll call it 10 or 11, whatever you want to call it. But you have a 10 or 11 win team and you win. I just gave you 3 names, right? You win 2 of those recruiting battles. I'm sure I could go through my Rolodex in my brain and say, okay, well, there's other high, 4-star, 5-star guys that we were engaged with. That Kevin Riley from Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, who was committed to Miami, and then, flipped to Alabama late. And then, we took Jordan Lyle. I think maybe we would have dropped Chris Wheatley-Humphrey had Kevin Riley not. But he ends up ascending in the rankings at the end. He's the number 1 running back in America. That's a guy who was in this class. So now you add in the number 1 running back in America. You add in a David Stone, who's a top 2 and maybe not 2 defensive lineman. You add in J4, who's the number 1 player in America. You add in, maybe a couple of these other guys that you're engaged with, and that class that's borderline 3-4, you could be looking at a number 1. Could be. So I don't think that there's a direct correlation. I just think that if we win to the level of this hypothetical question, which is 10 plus regular season wins, I think the number 1 class in the country is firmly in play. But we'll see.
I process these numbers concerning Miami's roster, their recruiting ranking, and their win totals differently and more frequently than on any other show, probably all the other shows I do combined, because I'm just taking in the information you just gave me, Cam. Top 3 to 4 class this last recruiting cycle. Of course, we know that the current class, the most recent class, has the least impact because they're just freshmen. But they will have an impact of some sort. I'm sure somebody could give us a gauge on what that impact is versus the other classes. I would guess that it's probably 25, 30% of what it should be that second year, third year, something like that. But it's still a top 3 to 4 class in the country. Then the number 7 class, those players are now sophomores. And then the roster that was inherited by Mario Cristobal, which, let's see, that preceding class that I'm getting to would be the one that he wrapped up, correct? That Manny Diaz generally built. And those were not chopped liver. They were he generally inherited a top 15 roster in college football. Why the collection of this can't equal a high number of wins this year?
It absolutely can. And again,
with an incoming quarterback who's the best transfer quarterback in the country.
The best returning quarterback in the country. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, but it should be. But I went and looked at the visits just to give a couple more names, right? So you have Jeremiah Smith, who visited 5-star, number 1 in America. Xavier Mincy, who ends up at Alabama. He's a 5-star. Chris Cole, the linebacker, who Miami thought was in the lead. They were in the lead for a good long time. He has a monster senior year out of Virginia. He shoots up and it ends up as a 5. He was a 4-star the entire way. He's a 5-star at the end, right? That's a guy that we battled for. Isendre Afua, the offensive lineman from Seattle, high 4-star, who visited as well. That was a guy that Miami was in, Jaden Jackson, who went to, Oklahoma. David Stone, Ellis Robinson. I know we only had a puncher's chance there, but Dylan Stewart, Colin Simmons, LJ McCray, all those are 5-star guys. Aiden Breland, 4-star guy. And these are all guys who visited. You know what I mean? So, like, you win half, or like not even half, because that's a lot, but those are like, when you have those numbers of elite recruits, because every single player I just named was a 4-star or 5-star recruit that did not choose Miami, and we already had the third or fourth. So now imagine having those guys, or a couple of those guys, I gave you 12 names. Imagine 4 to 5 of those now are included in this class. And again, we had, unlimited scholarship numbers, for a while, because of the thing, but that would have been, so when you think of the players that Miami was very closely connected to in recruiting and ended up losing out fractionally, right? It's not a far distance to say, hey, from where we ended up this year at borderline 3-4, you flip a couple of those results, and especially certain ones, because not only are you gaining that player, that other team is losing that player off of their list. Like I said, I mentioned Oklahoma 2 or 3 times with the defensive lineman, right? And I know that they weren't even above us, but, you do those things and the numbers can escalate pretty easily. So if Miami looks like they're going to be a double-digit win team, and obviously, Cristobal being one of the more insane and good recruiting coaches in the country, I think the number 1 class could firmly be in play. But instead of hitting singles to the gap, maybe we busted out of the box and we turned those line drives into hustle doubles. You need to be hitting some 400-foot bombs, 500-foot bombs. That's Ellis Robinson, bang. J4, bang. David Stone, bang. On top of the home runs and the moonshots that you already hit, right? So it's not just hitting the ones that you hit, it's hitting all or way more of them. So it's possible. It's possible, but there's still work to be done.
To stay on your analogy there, let's say the batting champion hit 350 and you hit 330. Mm-hmm. You need to stay in the cage and probably on a 600 at-bat season, squeak out about 15 or 20 more hits.
Right. Oh, that's not that many and everything. Right. It's not that many. Right. And, again, imagine, and I still don't have evidence that this existed. Imagine that Jeremiah Smith pulls out the fictional Miami hat that he supposedly, reportedly allegedly had in the bag there. Right. Because I don't believe he mentioned it. Nobody followed up on it. I have not seen that this thing exists. So I'm not trusting him at his word. Sorry, my guy. However, right, imagine a multiverse where that is the thing that changes, right? Imagine a multiverse where David Stone, instead of going against the general, because Miami thought he was coming too, by the way. It wasn't just his family, right? But imagine that he commits where everybody in the Oklahoma thought he was coming to Miami. Miami thought he was coming to Miami. His family thought he was coming to Miami. Imagine that. Those 2 guys right there, 5 stars at the top of the list, Hello. On top of hello. So again, it's like, yeah, over the course of, all these at-bats and all these visits and all these calls and all these it's only a couple different results. But if you get those couple different results and on top of the success that was already seen, that's how steps can be taken forward. So, I think that it would help, along the recruiting trail if Miami did win some of these extra games because, we've heard from a multitude of players and whatever that, yeah, Miami not having the current kind of success that they want to have was the barrier between these elite players coming to Miami or not. So I think it would help, Leroy, and that's a really great question.
Falconer coming back with this one. Any talk of a portal guy who could shock people?
If there is, I don't know it. Not at this point. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And it'll be interesting to see just whatever happens to in the spring transfer portal in general. Obviously, I think that it was tough for, some players when Jamil Adai left, and it's been tough all over the world of college football because there have been coaches who have been leaving for all kinds of other jobs at all, times recently. So it'll be interesting, but the answer to that question right now is I don't know, but we'll see.
We've got Corey. Appreciate you being here, Corey. When do you think we'll see Trevante and Zion play, if at all?
That is Trevante Citizen and Zion Nelson, the running back and offensive lineman, respectively. I don't think that we ever see them play at Miami. I think if there's a chance that we see one play at Miami again, it would be Trevante Citizen. But the fact that it's been really radio silent and 2 years for his knee injury is kind of unsettling because there were a couple known setbacks along his recovery path. Zion Nelson, I'm not sure that he plays football again. And it's been really quiet. But, I mean, this is a guy who's had multiple. I mean, we're talking about Trevante Citizen having 2 known setbacks. Zion Nelson's had double that probably. I mean, it's been tough to watch. And, I mean, this is from a guy who, we thought maybe was profiling towards being a, top 65 NFL draft pick a couple of years ago. But, yeah, it's the combination of the length of time that they've been dealing with these injuries and the complete radio silence from Miami. Because they're not even, when asked, Mario Cristobal's not even really giving updates. It's not even, on track and we'll see for spring and da-da-da. It's really been intentionally, players are going through rehab, we're doing the thing and we'll see. It's been really the way that they've shunned those questions for a while, specifically really more for Zion than Trevante, but still both. It don't sit right with me. It seems that there's some to me, and I am totally using my, context clues and knowledge of, just having been around these situations before, not saying that I know anything from anyone at Miami. This is my supposition. So let me be clear on that. But yeah, it feels off in a way that was like, it just reminds me of like Malik Young, Amon Richards. Like, we're not really saying anything and giving space for the player to make an announcement and a decision. And I don't hope that. I hope to be wrong. I hope that, it just ended up taking 2.5, 3 years and they come back. But I would say if spring is going to tell a lot of this story, especially if Zion doesn't play this spring. But Trevante Citizen did. He was suited up for the bowl game. He was in the bowl practices. He still had that big knee brace, but he was out there. So if there's one that I think plays, it would be Trevante Citizen over Zion Nelson, but I am not necessarily optimistic of either at this point.
We appreciate you being here. please hit the like button. It's a simple thing to do, but shows the YouTube algorithm that you do, in fact, like the video and enjoy your time here with Cam and myself. So please hit the like button. Also, we've got an Amazon link. It's in the description section of all the videos. So please, when you shop on Amazon, it's an easy thing to do. Grab the link that we provide. It's the same exact shopping experience. So you can use that link, help us grow the channel.